One of the most interesting founding dynamics that I've seen with founding partners, when there's normally two or three, is there's a massive duplication in roles early on, and unnecessarily so. So, for example, we often have founders come to us with one of two views in mind. Either they're looking to work with our studio for us to help them build out their MVP, or they're coming to us looking for investment or even to partner with our studio on an equity basis to help them build and scale what they're doing. And the biggest red flag that I've seen, or at least certainly one of them, is when both founders or multiple founders, everyone has to be on every meeting all the time. And there's very unclear role definition between them. And even when I've asked, and there's literally one company that I'm thinking of in my mind, where literally I asked, what is the difference between your roles? And they were like, we both do a bit of everything. And there's a complete inability to make any decision at any level independently. And moreover, they are effectively halving the amount of output that they could be making by doing the same things and working the same things all the time. And this might sound, early on, you might think, well, I probably don't be making big decisions without my partner's input, and fair enough. But that doesn't necessarily apply to everything, including some of the smaller things. And one of the things that we see in big companies is when you start making decisions by committee and you need everyone to have their voices on it, you end up with very slow and often suboptimal decisions. Whereas when you're able to trust one person with their direction, vision, and input, you end up with something that's, generally speaking, quite cohesive. And even if it's not quite as good as it might have been if everyone had given their input, what you end up with is a product and a decision that's made significantly faster. So, for example, in my own company with my partner, we will inform each other of big things, and we often ask each other's input on day-to-day decisions, but not on every decision. Often it's after the fact saying, hey, by the way, I had this conversation with this team member and we agreed this. Are you cool with that? Or we do something such as say, hey, I would like your input on this compensation system for incentives that we're putting in place for the team. There's a real example that my business partner came to me with. We discussed it and I gave my opinion. He disagreed with my opinion and said, hey, if you're fine with it, I'm going to go do what I think because I hear you and thank you for your input. And there's a couple of things that I'll use, but I don't necessarily agree with your conclusion. And I'm like, sure. Because I trust him to make the best decision. And even if it's not the best decision, because I'm still of the opinion that I'm right, which is why it was my opinion, but I trust him to make a good decision. And me just trusting in him and allowing him to go and progress with things is going to be significantly more impactful than us making a 90 to 95% difference in our accuracy of our decision. And that's even to say, why would I be more right than him? And so us having different opinions and then going and doing different things what each other might do actually is also probably good for the business overall. Because if it was just world of Tim, we'd probably make a lot worse decisions because we'd continuously run into the flaws of my own decision making. And if we share decisions in different parts of the business, then now we're getting a more averaged and probably overall better decision-making profile. And he's able to go and progress the things that he's working on, and I'm able to go and progress the things that I'm working on without needing for us to have massive overlap and duplication in all that we're thinking about and all that we're doing. And so the reason I'm sharing all of this is it's a really common thing where I see founders attached very closely at the hip. And often because, when you're ideating and you're trying to figure out things, that is how you start because you're trying to agree on the vision together. Once you've got that though, and you start stepping into more of an operating, moving things forward frame, you need to also adapt how it is that you're going about making these decisions and how you collaborate. If you have a CTO and you have a CEO, for example, as a founding pair, that role definition might be much clearer. if, for example, you're both non-technical, you need to be clear on why are you doing this together and what are your roles and what are you going to be uniquely well placed to do, and really push into those strengths, because the faster and harder you push into those strengths, the better overall the business will be because of it.